Hello and welcome back. In this lesson we'll be looking at the literary aspects of the Tomb Raider IP. With 2 decades under its belt, there's plenty to discuss when it comes to the literary aspects of the Tomb Raider IP, and thanks to the nature of the stories the franchise tells, those literary aspects run particularly deep. Lara's a globetrotter, and as such we get some wonderful insights into the many ancient societies and cultures, the lives, admittedly some with a few sprinkles of fiction layered throughout, of some particularly famous explorers and their exploits, but it's some of the common themes throughout each game that will follow throughout this lesson. There have been a total of 12 core entries to the franchise since it was first conceived, with several other spin-offs across multiple platforms, but despite the many years in gestation and the many hands that have worked on the franchise, the many core philosophies that underpin the franchise have remained intact, even if their emphasis has potentially waned somewhat. Lara is an archaeologist who ventures into forgotten lands to uncover the great mysteries contained within. This premise alone has been the driving force for her many differing adventures, and while even the post-2013 releases have spent a little less time focusing on this aspect, the influence still shines through in the way Lara narrates your adventure, with comments about all she's discovering and notes forever being made about whatever you uncover. The character of Lara herself is also one thing that needs to be discussed. There are 2 aspects of Lara that are always spoken of: her voluptuous figure, that again changed significantly post-2013, and her attitude. The beauty of Lara isn't just in her figure, and while many a comment has been made about her chest region in the early days, and how particularly immature corners of the internet took that and ran a mile with it, Lara's greatest asset is of course her strength. Fans of the franchise, since its inception, and even those who only saw the film starring Angelina Jolie, would remember Lara to be strong, confident, even bordering on an arrogant figure. So sure in her abilities that you never had to doubt the outcome of even the most dire looking situation. One-liners were the norm, and a general disregard for anything other than the prize she had her eyes set upon was standard, but with the 2013 release came a newfound maturity for the franchise. "2013 was significant for the collective opinion of the Tomb Raider franchise, and while the gameplay comparisons between it and the then king of the genre Uncharted were plentiful, it's the changes to those intrinsic aspects of the franchise that we just spoke of that were beginning to take a new form. The 2013 Tomb Raider was not only a franchise reboot of sorts, but also a prequel to everything we'd seen of Lara so far. She was raw, untested, nervous, afraid, not prone to acts of violence, and ultimately traumatised by the events of that first game in the new arc. Lara was younger and hadn't yet developed that cockiness that we know of and we expected to come down the line. This vulnerability allowed players to attach themselves to the franchise in ways that many had been unable to do in the past. And when coupled with some cosmetic changes, Lara suddenly felt a lot more like all of us. Folk who'd never considered themselves adept with high ropes, gunplay and acrobatic movements, such as those that we knew the older Lara was capable of. Of course, a young, scared and largely unwilling Lara didn't necessarily fit with the heightened focus on combat that we saw in the 2013 release, so the game was suddenly put on a pedestal as a game that demonstrated a heightened amount of ludonarrative dissonance, a disconnect between the gameplay and the story we're being told. It made sense too. Lara would be grieving over the fact that she needed to shoot down a deer in order to survive, yet only 15 minutes later you would be peering over perches, attempting to land the perfect headshot on a goon who wanted you dead. Suddenly older, cockier Lara made a little more sense to all of us, but the new direction was empowering for a large portion of the community and the story stronger for it, so young Lara continued to evolve through the following 2 releases. Though in the early days the capabilities were more restricted by the limited technology at our disposal, all Tomb Raider games have possessed various filmic qualities, from the constant pursuit of realism in Lara and her environment's looks, to the many soundtracks that have always chased the heights of the Hollywood greats. Lara's adventures have always looked and sounded the part. When Toby Gard first concocted the Tomb Raider franchise, Lara Croft was never designed to be a sexual icon, but she was designed to be a strong, powerful female figure in a sea of men. The greatest praise that can be given to his and the team at Core Design's original work is something like this, a look back on the incredible resonance that this franchise has had. Lara has gone on some incredible archaeological excursions, but she's simultaneously empowered countless thousands and maybe even millions of women and helped to shake the foundations of an industry that has all too often been thought of as a boys' club. Lara's impact has been felt for 2 decades and will continue to resonate for years to come. And so with that closes another lesson of Gamer School. If you're looking for any more content from myself, then be sure to like, share and subscribe to this channel. And please visit player2.net.au for a whole lot of my written content as well. If you want to catch me for any follow-up chats, then I can be found on Twitter at PaulJamesGames, where I'll love to hear any feedback you've got to improve future lessons. As for now though, I hope you've learned something interesting that you can bring to your next online discussion. But until next time, that's all the time we've got. Class dismissed.